This video focuses on bias binding. So here we have some examples of types of bias binding here where the binding is sandwiched on, and here in the red, here the blue binding. This would be the front of the garment, so the binding would be sewn to the edge and turned over, used as like a facing hem and then machine stitched. In this case we have the same as the blue hem, but just a narrower binding, and instead of machine stitching it's hand stitched. So binding is used in many areas and garments. It's often used on curves because you cannot fold up a curved edge. The seam allowance or the hem allowance would go all bumpy. So you can see here there's a curve that's similar to that, and if I try and turn that up like a hem, it won't actually sit right. So when you have a curved edge, you need to stitch something to that curved edge and fold that. So it could be a facing or it could be a bias binding. So here is a garment which is a dress, and that has bias binding finishes in many places. So it has it on the curved hem of the sleeve, it has it on the neckline of the garment, and also the back opening. So to start off with, you need to look at the binding itself. There's a selection of sizes of binding, so the width can be quite wide or medium or narrow, and then also there's all types of fabrics that binding can come in. So it can come in this regular kind of cottony fabric, or it can come in fancier sort of satins, and it can also come in maybe fabrics that are patterned, and often these would be used as a feature sandwiched onto the edge of the fabric. So depending on the style of your garment, you might be choosing different types of binding. So what exactly does bias binding mean? Well, the word bias refers to the bias of the fabric. So if we have a sample here of some calico fabric, and you can see there's a salvaged edge here, that's the machine finished edge. So all the threads that are parallel to the salvage edge are the straight grain of the fabric. So I pull along that, it's very strong. Going at a perpendicular or 90-degree angle from the salvage edge are the cross grains, and it's also quite strong along there. However, the bias, which is the grain line that goes at a 45-degree angle from the salvage edge, is actually stretchy. So if I pull there, the whole fabric can stretch. So the bias binding is a bit of fabric cut along the bias. So here's an example of making your own bias binding. So I'm taking my set square and I'm going to place it along the salvage edge there. And I'm going to chalk on a line, see? I'm going to measure, say I want my binding to be 2 centimeters, and then I need the little fold over pieces to be 0.5 each, so I'm going to make 3 centimeter. So I'm using the grid on the edge of the set square to go to the 3 centimeter mark and create my second line there. Now I'm going to cut that. And I have my own bias strip now, and I just need to fold in each edge to create my bias binding. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I have chalked on the 0.5 centimeter line there that I am going to press up. So I'm going to turn it in under that, like that. I can use my measuring tape as well. And I can press. So you can see you can create your own binding, so maybe a little bit time consuming to mark and press it up, and you have to watch your fingers as you press, but you can create your own if you need. There is a tool that helps fold in the two edges so that you can put the strip through the tool, and it will help arrange the two little fold over bits, so it makes it a little bit quicker. It is quite time consuming though to create your own binding, so it can be handy to just purchase some binding that is close in colour to your fabric that you're using.